Imagine this. It's winter in New York. The restaurant is Sardi's, one of the most popular among those in the theater. It's the early 80s, and you're Cheryl Lee Ralph. Remember, I said imagine. You're a young actress sitting with your agent over lunch when suddenly the door opens and in walks someone you recognize instantly. Someone everyone recognizes instantly. It's Diana Ross. You bolt up from your seat before you can even think, headed to make your introduction, because it's Diana Ross, and for a black girl in the 80s, she was everything.
And her back is to me, and I say, Miss Ross, and she turns around. You know, that smile of hers and the hair and the fur. I'm Cheryl Lee, and she says, Ralph, I know who you are. That lady turned around as quick as she had turned around to say hello and was gone.
Now here's the thing. This was your first time meeting Diana, but it wasn't her first time seeing you. Rumor had it she'd come to your show, slipped in quietly, wrapped in fur and dark glasses, watching from the back row, scowling. She knew what the buzz was. She knew what the show was really about. Because Diana Ross was a f***ing dream girl. Broadway director Michael Bennett needed a hit. His $2 million musical Ballroom about aging dancers was a commercial disaster. One ad exec recalled, "Everyone expected good reviews, but at the opening night party, it was like a mass cardiac arrest. Ballroom was suddenly like an ugly child. Everyone ran away from it."
The story is really too small and personal and slight to support a big musical to-do.
The musical closed within weeks. And just like that, the 35-year-old director, who had become one of the richest and most sought-after young visionaries on Broadway, with his previous smash, A Chorus Line, suddenly found himself needing a win.
I had the story in my head and some of the music. Some of the songs, we primarily played the music.
Tom Ian had an idea. The playwright, who had directed a handful of off-Broadway productions, teamed up with composer Henry Krieger over lunch one afternoon. And together, they sketched out a concept for a musical centered around a girl group from Chicago. The working title? One Night Only. At this point, the pair only had about 16 songs and a rough outline for the plot, but Bennett saw something, and soon he muscled his way into the project. Not just as a producer, but as the director. Much to Ian's disdain, because he wanted to direct his own show. But Bennett reportedly told him, with absolute confidence, "I'm going to make you rich."
It's really important that you know about your business and your affairs, I think.
See, that's interesting, because I'm sure that most people who look at you on stage think that glamorous singer.
I hope so.
The same year Dreamgirls opened, Diana Ross released Why Do Fools Fall in Love? Her 12th studio album, but in so many ways, her real debut. It was the first album she had put out after leaving Motown. And that label, and the man who ran it, hadn't just supported her career, but defined it.
Are we ready? Did you get the bass sound like you wanted?
Diana had always been a master of reinvention. By 1981, she was a divorced mother of 3. And as she told the Detroit Free Press, she saw her career as a series of eras. The Supremes, Diana Ross and the Supremes, Diana Ross, Diana the movie star, and now Diana, the mistress of her own fate.
The Temptations used to call themselves the Primes. A group of girls joined them, and then the group called themselves the Primettes. And out of this combination, the boys became the Temptations, and the girls became the Supremes.
The Supremes started out as the Primettes. Florence Ballard recruited her friend Mary Wilson to join the sister group to the Primes, whose members included Paul Williams and Eddie Kendricks, future stars of The Temptations. Williams then brought in another girl from the Brewster Projects, a young Diane Ross, a relatively new face in the neighborhood and daughter of factory worker Fred and school teacher Ernestine Ross. Originally, the Primettes were a foursome, rounded out by another girl from the neighborhood, and they cut their teeth performing at local talent shows and sock hops, slowly building a name around Detroit. In 1960, they auditioned for Motown, who had just changed its name from Tamla Records and was on the cusp of greatness. Early acts included Mary Wells, the Marvelettes, and the Miracles.
She called me and she said, I've got this group and I want you to listen to her sing. Tell me what you think. They were very cute and they sang well.
The next year, Motown offered the Primettes a contract, but under the condition that they changed their name, because by this time, the Primes were already starting to morph into the Temptations. Florence looked at a list of names given to her by a secretary and chose the Supremes. Diane wasn't thrilled, thinking the name was too masculine. But it stuck, and suddenly, they had a new contract, a new name, and a new look. The group officially became a trio shortly after they signed. During this time, all three of the girls sang lead pretty democratically. Florence, who arguably had the strongest voice in the group, would sing the soulful songs, Mary would sing the ballads, and Diane would sing the pop records. They released 6 singles, but none of them stuck, and they were jokingly referred to as the no-hit Supremes by folks at the label.
We were the first female group to come there. And the Marvelettes came in after we did. They got a hit record. Martha and the Vandellas got a hit record. And everyone kept coming in getting these hit records.
They compensated for their lack of hits by practically living at Hitsville, USA, singing background vocals, filling in on demos, and doing whatever the artist needed, or whatever Barry needed.
The Motown sound was created by one of these 3 men. What is your name, please?
My name is Barry Gordy, Jr.
A young entrepreneur named Barry Gordy, who created his new record label just 1 year earlier. Now, his group of talented young artists and songwriters are about to put Detroit on the musical map.
You actually worked as a secretary in the Motown office, in Barry Gordy's office.
I just organized his desk. I wanted to be around where the music was. I wanted to be close to the music.
Barry gravitated towards Diane, not just because she was beautiful, but because he heard something in her voice. It was, for lack of better words, slightly nasally, but it was distinct. And he believed it could cross over to the mainstream pop audience.
Girl, I saw charisma. She was charismatic.
And after 3 years of barely cracking the top 40, Motown released Where Did Our Love Go in 1964. Diane was chosen to sing lead on the record because, according to AllMusic's Ed Hogan, she had a unique, sensuous sound. The record reached #1 on the US pop charts, and shortly after, Diane would change her stage name to Diana, the name that was on her birth certificate. But preferably, you can call her Miss Ross.
Reintroducing us to the music of Fats Waller's sweet little Nell Carter won a Tony for Ain't Misbehavin'.
Nell Carter was originally supposed to be cast as the focal point of the show. She had won a Tony for her work in Ain't Misbehavin', and during a party celebrating her, she sang a few of the songs Ian and Krieger had written for their show, a show that cycled through multiple working titles, from One Night Only to Project Number 9. But Carter was never officially cast in the show, primarily because she accepted a role shortly after being offered the gig.
Because I have a process which is called the workshop process, which is the way I did Chorus Line. And it's 4 6-week rehearsal periods, and you try out parts of the show. And you fix the show and shape a show around the performance, and without the pressure of being in a hotel room in Boston and a deadline and being in previews. And when you're satisfied with what's in the room, then you raise the $6 million and you go out and you do the musical.
The show was developed over 2 years, with Cheryl Lee Ralph and Loretta Devine workshopping with the creative team from the beginning. A few months into that process, Bennett discovered Jennifer Holliday, a young lady fresh from Houston, Texas, with a massive voice. She had landed her first role only a year and a half before Dreamgirls opened, in Your Arms Too Short to Box with God, which earned her a Drama Desk nomination. She was young, she could act, and her voice blew Bennett away, so she was offered to workshop with the rest of the cast. But she left the production early on because she disliked the fact that her character, Effie White, was supposed to die in the first act.
Was it rough getting up this morning?
Yes, I got it at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
On February 22nd, 1976, Florence Ballard died from cardiac arrest at the age of 32. The previous 9 years of her life had been marred by addiction, poverty, and heartbreak.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, singing their current hit song,
You Can't Hurry Love.
Stop in the Name of Love.
Come See About Me.
Baby Love.
3 youngsters from Detroit, Diana Ross, Mary Wilson, Florence Ballard.
Here are the Supremes.
The Supremes' first #1 hit in 1964, Where Did Our Love Go?, was followed by 4 more #1 singles, all led by Diana, and the pecking order within the group became solidified. Not to mention, Barry and Diana's flirtation had developed into a full-blown relationship, with Barry leaving his wife in '64.
And this is kind of when things started going south for Mary and Florence.
Anytime there was a dispute between Diana and one of her fellow singers in the Supremes, or another singer in Motown, everyone knew you couldn't mess with Diana because she had Gordy in her back pocket.
You loved her. I loved her, yes. And still do.
It's alleged Diana asked for more pay than both Florence and Mary. The press frequently pointed out how thin Diana was compared to the others.
Florence, is that why she's thinner than you? She works harder?
I think I eat more than she eats.
And although Diana wasn't the strongest vocalist in the group, she was the face. She handled the interviews. She stood at the center in photographs. She sang lead. And that especially bothered Florence.
Early, that, signs started showing that, wait a minute, it's not only lead singing, but it's preferential treatment.
Still, they were superstars, the most successful girl group the world had ever seen, beloved by both Black and white audiences. In 2003, Fred Bronson wrote that when the Supremes formed the Primettes in 1959, no one could have predicted they would become the most successful American singing group of all time.
They've been referred to as the world's top female vocal group, the hottest group in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Diana Ross and the Supremes.
In 1967, while in Vegas, the group was briefly renamed the Supremes with Diana Ross, and then shifted to Diana Ross and the Supremes, following the example Smokey Robinson had set with Smokey Robinson and the Miracles.
You got more money. Promoters paid you more money because you had a feature person in your act. So that was how that happened. We became Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. They became Diana Ross and the Supremes.
Gordy explained that by separating the names, Motown could demand more money for performances because booking agents were effectively hiring 2 acts in one, a solo star and a backing group. But obviously there were motivations behind this that weren't purely financial. Both Gordy and Diana wanted her to become the biggest star in the world. So much so that she began recording many of the Supremes records on her own. In '66, Gordy was even considering launching her as a solo act and replacing her with Barbara Randolph, but felt the group's name still held too much weight for her to break away just yet. Mary didn't appreciate the special treatment Diana received, but it didn't affect her as deeply as it affected Florence, who fell into a depression and began drinking and gaining weight.
When Florence started having these problems, and it wasn't her fault, she was actually abused when we were in the Primettes. We had just started singing. I think we were now by that maybe 13 or 14 years old, and Florence was abused by a neighborhood guy there. And it absolutely just took everything out of her. We thought that when we became famous, we made lots of money. I kind of assumed that she was okay, but back then people didn't talk about those things.
Mm-hmm. She started missing performance dates or arriving to them under the influence. And by April 1967, Gordy had already contacted Cindy Birdsong, a member of Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells, to become Florence's replacement. Ballard blamed Motown and in turn Barry for destroying what had previously been a fun group dynamic by making Diana the star. So she took what she thought was a temporary leave of absence, not only due to this dissatisfaction, but to address some more of her personal issues. But on the Supremes front, there was a problem. Cindy was still under contract with the Bluebells. So what did they do? They rehired Florence under the guise that she would still be a Supreme if she behaved and slimmed down, which she did, only for Cindy to be secretly traveling with them on their tour dates. Florence eventually discovered an extra set of costumes and gowns in their dressing room meant for Cindy.
This particular incident at the Flamingo in Las Vegas, I had me a few drinks, and they kept calling me fat so much until I went on stage and I poked my stomach out as far as I could, but I did my show.
And Gordy finally had the excuse he needed to send her home permanently. She received a one-time payment of about $140,000 to leave the group. And while she tried to rebuild her career, releasing a couple singles and even suing Diana and Barry for allegedly forcing her out of the group, she ultimately sank into poverty and passed away from the weight of it all, from heartbreak.
They ought to make a musical about this.
Well, they did.
In the December 20th, 1981 issue of Newsday, Jerry Parker tried to clean up some of the accusations swirling around the newest Broadway sensation. He described Michael Bennett's newest musical as explicitly not about the Supremes, but the plot had more than a few glaring similarities.
Ladies and gentlemen,
On Broadway, the news is Dreamgirls, Michael Bennett's smash hit musical.
It's 1962, and the Dreamettes, Laurel Robinson, Effie White, and Dina Jones, enter a talent contest at the Apollo. Effie is unmistakably the best singer in the group. Dina and Laurel are alright, but their talent pales in comparison. That night, they meet Curtis Taylor Jr., who offers to manage them and gives them their so-called break as backup singers for a popular R&B act, Jimmy Thunder Early. Curtis and Effie eventually begin a relationship, while Laurel starts an affair with the married Jimmy. Determined to turn the Dreamettes into stars, Curtis shapes them into their own act, The Dreams. More importantly, instead of Effie being the lead singer, Curtis chooses Dina to front the group due to her looks, stating to her, "I'm going to make you the most famous woman who's ever lived." After a string of hits, Dina becomes the obvious star. Effie starts missing out on performances and gaining weight, and in 1967, while in Vegas, the group has now been renamed to Dina Jones and the Dreams. After realizing the group has already hired her replacement, she is devastated. And in the original draft of the musical, she dies at the end of Act 1. Sound familiar?
When I first came to Broadway, it took me a long time to trust people because I knew that I was talented and these were big people that I didn't know anything about.
Jennifer Holliday didn't like the direction the musical was going and quit due to it. Jennifer Lewis would be hired as a replacement, but knew she wasn't right for the part, stating, "I just couldn't sing like Jennifer Holliday. Nobody in the world could. I always felt like they hired me to develop the character, knowing all along they were going to hire Jennifer Holliday back for that voice." Bennett convinced Ian and Krieger to come up with a new ending for the first act, a show-stopping number that would showcase just how heartbroken Effie was at that moment. And in turn, they came up with "And I Am Telling You, I'm Not Going." Jennifer Holliday came back, but this time was unsatisfied with Effie's minimized role in Act 2 and made it very clear to Bennett, who in turn fired her.
Finally, Bennett said he couldn't do it without her, and Holliday returned triumphantly.
At the end of Act 1, when you bring the house down singing "And I'm Telling You I'm Not Going," are you thinking of Michael Bennett?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am, most definitely.
Rehearsals for the show were intense. Bennett was fiery. In one instance, even screaming at Cheryl to get the F out of rehearsals for not acting to his satisfaction. She claimed in her memoir that he would create tension throughout the experience, pitting her and Holliday against each other, comparing each to one another in front of other people, and trying to create rivals not only on the stage, but off of it. But despite the drama behind the scenes, the show's previews in Boston had the critics buzzing. Dreamgirls was going to be a hit. When it opened on December 20th, 1981 at the Imperial Theater in New York, Frank Rich's review in the New York Times stated, "When Broadway history is being made, you can feel it. What you feel is a seismic emotional jolt that sends the audience as one right out of its wits. While such moments are uncommonly rare these days, I'm here to report that one popped up at the Imperial last night. Broadway history was made at the end of the first act of Michael Bennett's beautiful and heartbreaking new musical Dreamgirls. And ticket sales started to fly."
I had a lot to guide me and sustain me then. My direction, my determination, a commitment to hard work instilled by my family, and the support and encouragement of Berry Gordy. At times, my surrogate father, at other times, my controller and slave driver.
I'll go out on a limb here and say that just about every Black girl group after the Supremes has been shaped, at least in part, in their image. Before the Supremes, girl groups were marketed as a single cohesive unit, but the Supremes were a little bit different. Although Diana was positioned as the obvious star, audiences still knew who Florence, Cindy, and Mary were. They recognized their names, their faces, or at the very least, their roles. The way Berry Gordy marketed the Supremes became the blueprint for generations of acts that followed. And Destiny's Child was one of those acts.
We never say no, 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 no to it now.
In a 2001 Oakland Tribune review of a Destiny's Child concert, the critic didn't mince words. He wrote, "Beyoncé, Beyoncé, Beyoncé. The band has long been dogged by rumors that Beyoncé is planning to leave the group for a solo career. She is Destiny's Child, the undeniable talent and the undeniable star."
Beyoncé, I understand you are the leader, right, of the group.
I sing lead.
And with only 3 years since their debut, Destiny's Child had already checked off nearly every stereotypical girl group narrative the media had dreamed up since the Supremes.
And #1 on the Billboard chart.
Young Girls with a Dream? Check. After several iterations and name changes, the group finally debuted as a quartet from Houston, Texas, all between the ages of 16 and 17, their Southern accents thick and unmistakable. A powerful figure dictating the group. Check.
Well, I'm very proud not only of my daughter, but all of the girls.
Beyoncé's father, Matthew Knowles, left his career as a sales executive to dedicate himself fully to managing the girls and to make them stars. But the whispers were a little more specific: to make Beyoncé a star. A lead singer that's destined to go solo? Check. And to be fair, there was good reason for it. Yes, there must have been favoritism. Their manager was her father, their stylist was her mother, and her sister was a background dancer. Destiny's Child, in many ways, was a Knowles family operation. But while researching this video, I watched too many performances to ignore the truth. Beyoncé just had it.
I never forget, we was at this little indoor play jungle gym situation or whatever, having our fun like kids are supposed to, and she set out in a hot ass car and was right into a track. And I remember going, "Where we at?" And I was in the car. I was like, "Oh, I'm going now, see what you're doing." And I went and sat in the passenger seat as she just wrote this record. And I was like, we be out here trying to have fun, and this girl, she's on it. She lives this.
Yeah.
Like this, she wants this bad.
A tumultuous breakup? Check. 2 original members, LaToya Luckett and Latavia Roberson, were fired. And much like Florence Ballard before them, they sued both Beyoncé and Matthew Knowles, along with Kelly Rowland. Their lawsuit accused Matthew of attempting to gain legal guardianship over them, refusing to share financial information with them and their parents, and secretly replacing them in the group without informing them, stating they found out they were replaced when they saw the video for Say My Name. I think we're starting to see a pattern here.
There have been so many rumors about Destiny's Child and about me. It's crazy. I get no special treatment. As a matter of fact, I get the worst treatment because when I'm at home on my days off, my father is harassing me to do interviews and work.
In another article in the Chicago Tribune, Greg Cott wrote, with Beyoncé taking the creative lead and her father directing most of the business moves, what's left for the other members? When Roberson and Luckett abruptly departed last year, the group never broke stride, as though nothing had changed. The implication was that everyone in the group was the interchangeable part, except for Beyoncé Knowles. At this point, they had just about crossed off every girl group stereotype on the list. And what was next? A name change?
You know, Destiny's Beyonce and the girls, that you all weren't allowed to perform and do a lot of stuff.
I'm sorry, can you please not call us Beyonce and the girls?
I have to.
Because that is definitely an insult to Kelly and Michelle.
No, I like them, but the attention stays on you.
The diva persona had done irreparable damage to Diana Ross's reputation. Fabulous as she was, by 1981, people truly believed that she was responsible not only for the demise of the Supremes, but of Florence Ballard.
We weren't Barry's sole focus. He was the leader and everyone wanted his focus and approval. But he played favorites and set up an unhealthy internal climate. He used to say things to other performers like, "Why can't you be more like Diana? She makes her plans, she works really hard, she rehearses all day long, and she records all night." Comparing is a terrible thing to do in a family situation. If you have 3 kids and single out one of them and keep saying to the others, "Why can't you be like her?" it produces crippling sibling rivalry. I feel that's how it all started, and it became a very difficult situation for me. I became the good child, the object of Dad's affection, and everyone turned against me. I lived under constant stress.
I want to give a little perspective here, at least my perspective. If I was handed the world at 20 years old, made into a superstar, given fame and fortune, I don't think I'd have the strength to tell the person doing it to stop.
I was the object of everybody's jealousy then. I bore the brunt of a lot of blame. I am quite clear that I am not responsible for anybody else's successes or failures.
So obviously it would give her pause when news was buzzing about a new Broadway musical based on the Motown dynasty, specifically the girl groups of that era. Diana had never publicly spoken on the play specifically, although she sang the song Family in her 1983 Central Park concert. But Mary Wilson reportedly came to the previews and immediately fell into the arms of Loretta Devine, who played Laurel. In tears, she's reported as saying, "I recognize me, I recognize me." She even named her 1986 autobiography Dreamgirl, adding more fuel to the "this musical isn't about the Supremes" fire. Bennett made it incredibly clear that Dreamgirls wasn't a show about the Supremes, and Cheryl Lee Ralph wasn't playing Diana Ross.
He said, "If you play Diana Ross, they will sue us."
Nevertheless, the show was beloved by most, and the process was truly collaborative. During the workshopping phase, the actors helped build their characters, deciding what they would say, how they would feel, how they would exist on stage. The stars of the show had created their roles during the workshopping process. Remember, the original book was only a loose concept when they began.
When you're young and you don't know a whole lot, back then, you do crazy things, like sell away your rights for $1.
Just before the show debuted, production presented the cast with contracts asking each member to sign away all rights to the production for $1.
We were all in the rehearsal room at 890 Broadway. The show was going to move forward, and they brought in this piece of paper and they told us to sign it.
It's pretty jarring when you think about it. A show about Black art conceived essentially by 3 white guys, built using a Black cast who helped reshape and revamp the material, and in the end gained minimally from its success. But that's a whole other video.
And I want to thank the wonderful cast of Dreamgirls, and I love you all. Thank you.
Nevertheless, Dreamgirls was a hit, and David Geffen, one of the financial backers of the original production, sold the film rights to Warner Brothers in the 80s. Whitney Houston was once attached to play Dina, but she wanted to sing both her own songs and Effie's. Another iteration tapped Lauryn Hill as Dina and Kelly Price as Effie. But after Why Do Fools Fall in Love flopped at the box office, Warner Brothers execs decided they didn't want to make any more black music films and shelved the project. Bill Condon was 26 when he first saw Dreamgirls at the Imperial Theater in 1981. 21 years later, he could still recall the goosebumps he felt sitting in the back row. By then, he had made a name for himself. He had won an Academy Award for his Gods and Monsters screenplay and had most recently worked on Rob Marshall's Chicago, the film adaptation of the 1975 stage musical. At a 2002 holiday party, Condon spoke with producer Lawrence Mark and mentioned that ever since Chicago, he had been offered every musical adaptation Hollywood had the rights to. But the only one he was interested in, the only one he wanted, was Dreamgirls. The following week, Geffen joined the two for lunch, and they convinced him to let Condon write the script.
The next thing we knew, we were talking to business affairs and making a deal for Bill to write a script and direct, and like that.
As Condon was writing, he already knew who he wanted for the two male leads, Eddie Murphy and Jamie Foxx. By 2005, Jamie Foxx was arguably the hottest actor in the business. Fresh off an Academy Award win for Ray, and with a hit album lighting up the charts, he was on top of the world. But he opted out early because the studio wouldn't meet his salary demands, which were rumored to be set to the tune of $15 million.
When they came to me about it, I was like, oh, the part that they had offered to me, I remember that being a standout part in it. Like Cleavon Derricks won the Tony for the role that I played.
Condon wanted Eddie Murphy for the role of James Thunder Early. Murphy, however, wasn't hung up on salary. He just simply wasn't sure if he wanted to take on such an ambitious role. His recent work ranged from voicing Donkey in Shrek to starring in The Adventures of Pluto Nash. And plus, Eddie Murphy didn't do supporting roles. He was Eddie Murphy. But after meeting with Jeffrey Katzenberg, Eddie was persuaded to take it on.
And I am telling you, I'm not going.
The part of Cece, Effie's brother and the group's songwriter, was offered to Andre 3000, who turned it down. Usher also passed, unable to commit 6 full months to the project. Omarion was considered next before the role ultimately went to Keith Robinson.
We're your dream girls, dream girls, dream girls will never leave you.
Unlike Diana, who needed a few tries before landing her first solo smash, Beyoncé debuted with a bang. In the video for Crazy in Love, she stares directly into the camera, asking the audience if they're ready, like she was warning us of the seismic shift she was about to bring to the music industry. Crazy in Love hit #1 on the Hot 100, and the 3 singles that followed all reached the top 5. Her debut album has sold 11 million copies to date, and by 2005, she was on the verge of becoming a full-blown superstar, if she wasn't one already.
Beyonce! Okay, girl.
Her ambition mirrored the mythology surrounding artists like Michael, Tina, and even Diana. Artists often described as obsessively driven, determined to succeed, and committed to being the absolute best at what they did. By then, she was doing Super Bowl commercials, touring internationally, and taking film roles that, while not awful, weren't showing the strongest sides of her talent.
That's not right.
No way.
So when she reached out to Bill Condon about playing Dina, he wasn't so sure if she had the chops to pull it off. Condon later told Jay Stone, "Everything Beyoncé does on stage right now is wrong for Dina." But Beyoncé was determined, and in the midst of the Destiny's Child farewell tour, she did a full screen test in Manhattan during the summer of 2005. Found the ugliest wig and dress she could, hired a team to do period-accurate makeup, and performed her heart out.
We'll be there!
For Curtis, the team initially tried Denzel Washington, but he politely told them he doesn't sing. Will Smith had scheduling conflicts. Terrence Howard was even considered too, but after hearing Beyoncé and Eddie Murphy had been cast, Jamie Foxx circled back and agreed to take the role at a lower rate than he originally wanted.
And having somebody who is that accomplished an actress within the theater world, which Dreamgirls inhabits too, it became an important part of the mix, the combination of these three girls.
Anika Noni Rose was already a Broadway star and a Tony Award winner, but she was relatively unknown to mainstream audiences. Her biggest on-screen role at that point being in From Justin to Kelly, the movie vehicle for the American Idol winner and runner-up. But it was her role to lose, and they knew she had the talent to bring Laurel to life. But the hardest role to cast would be Effie White.
Jennifer Holliday in Dreamgirls.
There was no established star the creative team had in mind, so they held open calls across the country. Over 700 women auditioned, including Raven-Symoné,
And I am telling you, I obviously didn't get it.
Trina Braxton,
Can people sing a cappella? Just curious.
and even Fantasia Barrino. Jennifer Holliday had won a Tony for originating the role and had completely stamped her identity onto it. Finding someone who could not only sing the part, but act was a real tall order.
I'll stand by you.
Jennifer Hudson wasn't a household name yet, but America had grown fond of the Chicago native. Just a year earlier, the country watched her make it to the top 7 on the phenomenon American Idol, only to be shockingly eliminated.
Fantasia, you are safe.
Jennifer took it in stride, though.
When I was eliminated from Idol, I stood on the stage and people wanted a speech and they was like, why is she not crying? And I'm like, because I'm gonna be okay. It's something coming, I know it.
She was asked to audition for the role of Effie, and the audition went well. But she didn't hear much afterward as the team left to continue scouting talent across the country. Still, they kept her in the back of their minds and eventually asked her to come in for a full screen test.
So Dina's gonna sing lead because you like the way she looks. Am I ugly to you, Curtis?
After that, Jennifer got the part, and Fantasia called to joke that she stole her role. Rehearsals began shortly after Jennifer was cast in November 2005. She was told to gain 20 pounds to play Effie. And after months of preparation, by the time principal photography was approaching, Condon was still nervous about her. He knew everyone else was firing on all cylinders, but he wasn't completely confident that Hudson could step into Holliday's shoes. So instead of letting her visit family in Chicago for the holidays, Condon called Jennifer to come to LA the day after Christmas, and he gave her an assignment. Stop showing up on time, stop saying thank you, be rude, be a diva, be Effie. Filming wrapped about 4 months later, after spending 4 full days on Jennifer's And I Am Telling You number. It was the scene, the emotional centerpiece of the whole movie, and it had to be perfect. Condon had to request additional time and money from the studio just to finish it, but everyone involved knew just how crucial that moment was.
I dreamed for so long to be somewhere like this today.
The film premiered on December 4th, 2006.
Dreamgirls movie. Have you seen the Dreamgirls film?
I have not seen it. Heard a lot about it. I'm going to see it with my lawyers.
The film opens at a talent contest at the Detroit Theater, already setting itself apart from the stage musical, where the girls are Chicago-based. And barely 3 minutes in, we literally run into Dina Jones. You can see the hunger in her eyes as she shakes Curtis's hand way too fast, apologizing because her mother, a school teacher, wouldn't go to sleep so she couldn't sneak out to perform. But the moment someone with a clipboard, someone who seems even slightly more important, asks who she is, she pivots instantly. Played by Jaleel White, he barely finishes the question before she beams,
Dina Jones, one of the Dreammates.
Curtis eventually convinces the promoter to let them perform despite being late. We see Dina and her bandmate Laurel, but the audience knows they're missing a key piece, and the pecking order of the group becomes clear when Effie White saunters in. After seeing another girl group, a more polished, more mature-looking quartet, Dina suggests they turn their wigs around, insisting it looks
sophisticated looking.
Laurel immediately obliges, but as the other two head to the stage, Effie pauses to fix her hair how she likes it. Curtis falls right in behind her and tells her,
I think you look just great.
It's taken me 19 years to fully understand this scene and to fully understand Curtis. And honestly, I'm still not sure if I do. Curtis is slick, calculated. And in those moments, you have to wonder, did he realize the way to break through Effie's stubbornness was by getting close to her romantically? Did he see her strength and immediately see an angle?
And you know you good too. You're very talented.
We also see Curtis's manipulative instincts when, right after the girls perform, he bets the promoter $5 so they won't win it, because he needs them to fail. Their failure is his entry point. If they don't go win, he can slide in, get close to Jimmy, and position himself as indispensable.
What you need is a break, and I'm here to give it to you.
The core premise stays pretty close to the stage production. The trio meet Curtis at the talent show. He weasels his way into managing them and eventually lands them a gig singing background for Jimmy Early. Danny Glover plays Marty, Jimmy's manager, who instantly senses something is off about Curtis. Curtis later starts his own record label, Rainbow Records, out of his Cadillac dealership. After their first single is stolen by a white group, Curtis leans on payola in order to make Step Into the Bad Side a hit. The original musical never mentions Curtis owning a label, but we all know who did, right?
Barry Gordy Jr.
Step Into the Bad Side also reveals one of the biggest wrinkles in the film's story. Effie is engineered to be the star, the one with the voice, the one who should be leading the group.
I'm right here.
Dina is supposed to seem undeserving of her success, and the entire story hinges on the belief that she's unremarkable. But in this film, with Beyoncé playing her, it's clear that Dina Jones has star power. In Step Into the Bad Side, her and Laurel get a noticeable amount of screen time, a bit of foreshadowing of what's coming, and honestly a little on the nose. Effie is hardly ever highlighted or centered in any of the frames. But if you really watch, Dina is giving it her all. And I don't even think it was an acting decision. It's the choreography, the framing, the direction. The film draws your eye to her on purpose. And in the stage production, that wasn't really the case. So why was it crafted this way? To me, it seems like another nod to the Supremes.
When those lights came on, Diana Ross came to life.
Diana wasn't the most vocally gifted, but she wasn't a slouch either. She worked for her position to the point of collapsing from exhaustion in the 60s.
All of the artists learned and worked hard, but not as hard as Diana Ross, you see.
And hate her if you want, but you can't deny that she was a star. The original Broadway show made the talent disparity clear. Effie was the voice, Dina was just the image. But if the film was willing to change major details, even the girls' hometown, wouldn't it also be willing to reshape how we're meant to perceive them?
Ain't that what you keep telling me? Get in line, Effie. Wait your turn.
Soon after, we see Rainbow Records printing The Great March to Freedom, an album of Martin Luther King's speeches Motown actually released in 1963. Effie falls in love with Curtis, and Curtis becomes infatuated with Dina. Curtis wants to remake Jimmy into a mainstream act and pushes Marty out. He books Jimmy and the Dreamettes at an all-white Miami club, and when Jimmy's performance makes the patrons uncomfortable, Curtis decides to split Jimmy from the girls entirely. Then the bomb drops.
Dina's gonna sing lead.
Curtis announces the girls' new name is The Dreams, and that Dina, not Effie, will sing lead to appeal to mainstream audiences.
But I've got the voice, Curtis. I've got the voice.
Kids today watch television, he says, clearly implying Dina is more marketable. The Dreams inevitably become stars, and Curtis starts to see them, especially Dina, as a product.
In the early days, we were just a product. You know, you didn't realize your real worth or as a person.
As the group rises, Jimmy starts to decline and turn to drugs. Effie also becomes increasingly difficult to work with. Curtis's preference for Dina is undeniable, and it eats at her.
I loved all my artists, but I was in love with Diana Ross.
Okay.
Diana and I are the same kind of people. She wanted what I wanted. And we saw it up there, and we set out to get it.
Berry Gordy famously called Diana the queen of his life, and Curtis clearly sees Dina as his ticket into the world he wants. The Vegas sequence mirrors the stage production. Michelle, played by Sharon Leal, replaces Effie behind her back. A blow-up ensues, and it all leads into "And I Am Telling You I'm Not Going." Craig D. Lindsay wrote that Hudson delivered the number with such force it rattled the theater walls.
My increased dependence upon him only added to his ability to control and overpower me, which I allowed.
Act 2 gives us a polished, media-friendly Dina Jones narrative, including a parade of album covers that look very familiar. And yes, Curtis and Dina are married now.
Putting Dina's name on a record don't make it a hit anymore.
Unlike the stage show where Dina wants to stop singing entirely, the film shows her wanting to do everything. Sing, act, be her own person. But Curtis, much like the stories told about Gordy, pushes her toward only the projects he controls. There's even a nod to The Wiz when Dina refuses a Cleopatra role, saying,
"Come on, she's 16 years old for most of the movie."
Curtis then sings When I First Saw You, crowning Dina as his dream girl. Effie hits rock bottom, shown at the welfare office with her daughter Magic. Compared to the stage production, Laurel and Jimmy's storyline is pretty trimmed down, but Jimmy is still the aging R&B star trying to reinvent himself. Eddie Murphy gives one of his best acting moments of his career around the hour and 23-minute mark when Curtis rejects his new song, Patience. He shoots Cece a look that tells you everything you need to know. Then comes Rainbow 10, the film's Motown 25 moment. Jimmy unravels, drops his pants on live television, and Curtis fires him. Laurel finally leaves him after 8 years, realizing he'll never leave his wife.
"You never really loved me."
And then Jimmy overdoses, and his wife won't allow Laurel to attend the funeral. Cleavant Derricks, the original Broadway Jimmy, later criticized this choice. His character didn't die in the musical. Cece quits Curtis's label, fed up with having the soul stripped from his music. He reunites with Effie in Detroit and gives her his song One Night Only. And it becomes a modest R&B hit until Curtis tanks it by bribing stations to play the Dreams disco version instead. So Effie gets pushed out while Dina gets pulled up. Not because one woman is good and the other is bad, but because the system found two different ways to punish the both of them.
Dina, you know why I told you to sing lead? Because your voice has no personality, no depth.
Dina is a much more sympathetic character in the film than on the stage to me. A lot of women on the stage don't give full voice when playing her, so it's easier to sell us the narrative that Effie deserves to be the lead more than her. With Beyoncé playing Dina, that argument is even harder to sell. She states she pulled back her voice for this part, but it's still Beyoncé coming through the speakers, so it's hard to convince the audience that Dina doesn't deserve to be lead or any of the success that followed. I mean, yes, she's trifling for sleeping with her bandmate's man.
You sleeping with her and everyone knows.
But even that is more so implied in the movie than ever explicitly stated. Like, Effie says it happened, but we don't see it.
You read contracts, so you just pray. You can't even take a shit and wipe your own ass unless I say it's okay.
After Curtis belittles her at the dinner table, Dina records the song Listen. And for the first time, she speaks directly against the man who has controlled her and everyone around her since she was a teenager. Dina eventually learns what Curtis did to Effie and reaches out to her.
Believe me, I had no idea what Curtis was trying to do to you.
And during their reunion, Effie reveals that Curtis is the father of her 8-year-old daughter.
You stopped me once, but you'll never stop me again.
Dina leaves him immediately and vows to start a new life.
For a new sound, baby.
About a year later, the Dreams give a farewell concert and invite Effie to sing lead on their final song. And during that moment, Curtis finally realizes that Magic is his child.
I'm giving it a huge thumbs up.
The film was received well by critics, but the original cast of Dreamgirls had mixed feelings. Loretta Devine, again, who played Laurel on stage, was invited by Krieger to be in the film, and they created a unique part just for her. She claims the other women in the original cast were asked back, but
I thought they was gonna let us be the girls' mothers. And they didn't know, they didn't want to do that. That was just not gonna work.
Smokey Robinson took issue with the blatant nods to the use of payola.
I really am kind of upset about it because there's a lot of false information in there, and millions of people are seeing it every day.
Paramount would later apologize to Gordy for any confusion the film may have caused. Nevertheless, Dreamgirls ended up with the most nominations of any film that year, despite being shut out of Best Picture, and despite Jamie Foxx and Beyoncé receiving no nominations for their lead roles. Although Knowles was nominated for a Golden Globe for her performance. The attention instead centered on the supporting categories. Eddie Murphy was considered a major contender, and Jennifer Hudson's performance was immediately hailed as iconic. It was a real A Star is Born moment. Variety magazine wrote that Hudson's performance called to mind debuts like Barbra Streisand in Funny Girl or Bette Midler in The Rose, with a voice like the young Aretha.
And the Oscar goes to Jennifer Hudson.
On Oscar night in 2007, a 25-year-old Jennifer Hudson walked on stage and accepted the award for Best Supporting Actress for her first film, the same role that had once nearly been killed off at the end of Act 1.
Thank you all for being here and supporting me, and I love you all. Thank you.
If you watch Holliday's Tony speech, and then watch Hudson at the Oscars, it feels like the universe ran the same story twice. 2 Jennifers, 2 Effies, 2 Black women whose lives were changed by a song about refusing to disappear. But while Effie finally got that full circle vindication, the Dina, Diana, Beyoncé thread is a little messier. And honestly, that's what makes it interesting.
Sometimes they make you this person, they cut up stuff and edit it or reword certain things to make you this person, this star, this diva, this, and that's not who I am. Sometimes I think people think that because they read certain things and they believe rumors and they don't know you, and that hurts because that's not how you are, and that you have no control over that, and that makes me cry.
We've seen this narrative play out over and over. One girl gets pushed to the front, the others get labeled background, and the public decides somebody's got to be the villain. In the 60s, the target was Diana Ross. People blamed her for Florence's downfall, for the name changes, for the spotlight. By the 2000s, that same energy was pointed at Beyoncé. The articles were basically copy-pasted. She talks the most, she gets the best outfits, the other girls are interchangeable, she must be the problem. Destiny's Child lived inside that Supreme's template whether they asked for it or not. and the media loved the Beyoncé is the new Diana Ross narrative.
And I must say that I just had such admiration for Beyoncé.
That's why Dreamgirls, the movie, is such a weird, fascinating subject to look at. On paper, Dina is the stand-in for Diana, the pretty one, the chosen one, the one pushed to the front by a man who thinks he owns her. But once you put Beyoncé in that role, it actually mirrors the way she was talked about in real life. In the real world gossip, Diana was the villain.
I really don't think that I'm to blame for anyone's career not doing well.
Beyoncé was the villain.
Well, they slapped a nice lawsuit on us.
Yeah.
In Dreamgirls, the villain is Curtis, the system, deciding who sings lead, who gets paid, who gets discarded. Dina still benefits from that system, but the movie doesn't ask for us to hate her. It asks us to see just how little control she has until she decides to take it.
What? 'Cause you own me?
And in a way, that's the one luxury that Dina and Beyoncé have that Diana didn't fully get. The chance to rewrite the narrative while she was still in it. And instead of spending the next 30 years answering, why did you leave the group? Beyoncé built a massive solo career, fired her father, told her own version of events in her work, and stood on stage with Kelly and Michelle while also shouting out the other members.
I'd also like to thank the original members of Destiny's Child, LaToya Luckett and Latavia Robinson.
By the time Diana was fully on her own, Florence was gone.
Any great regrets?
No, I wouldn't change a thing.
No. And in the end, Dreamgirls is messy, revisionist, and a little unfair. But so are all the stories it's based on. It doesn't give us a perfect version of Diana or Florence or Motown. But what it does give us is a snapshot of how we talk about Black women in music. Who we crown, who we blame, and who we decide to love once they're gone. And still, there's probably someone in the comment section of this video ready to type out just how overrated they think Beyoncé is. But honestly, that's the whole point of the story. They say all you've got to do is dream, but you also have to survive the story they tell about you afterward.